I remember the night she told me she needed more. It wasn't dramatic. No slammed doors or shouting matches. We were sitting on the couch, some mindless Netflix documentary playing in the background. She looked over at me, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the seam of the throw pillow, and said it softly, almost like she didn't want to say it, but couldn't keep it in anymore. I need more excitement in my life, Nate. At first, I thought she meant travel or a new hobby. We'd both gotten into this routine, dinner by 7, phones in bed, weekends at the same brunch spot. I nodded and said, yeah, we could try something new. Maybe take that trip to Morocco you've been talking about. But her eyes didn't light up. She just nodded, half smiling. And I should have known then that she wasn't talking about Morocco, or paragliding, or pottery classes. She was talking about someone else. His name was Evan, her boss. Tall, charming in that annoying way where even his bad jokes got laughs, and apparently available. Or so she thought. It started, she later admitted, during late hours on a pitch. Just drinks at first, then confessions about unhappy marriages. Then one night at a hotel bar when the electricity was just too strong to ignore. I didn't get a say in any of that. I was just the man she used to love, waiting at home while she found herself in the arms of someone else. I didn't find out from her. No, she came home later and later. Said she was exhausted from the merger. Told me not to wait up. When I finally asked, really asked, she just sighed and looked guilty. Not sorry, just caught. And then she left. Just like that. Left the ring on the kitchen counter next to the car keys and the grocery list she never finished. Said she was moving in with Evan, at least until she got a new place. She said he made her feel alive, like I was some dull weight around her ankles. What she didn't know, and what I didn't tell her, is that I had already started pulling away weeks before. Not emotionally, but financially. Call it instinct, or maybe just experience from watching my father get blindsided during his divorce. But the moment things got weird, I began documenting, quietly separating assets, rerouting income, moving accounts into trusts. I didn't want revenge, I just wanted dignity, protection, peace. But peace takes time, and pain. It hurt like hell watching her leave. I won't lie, I didn't eat much that first week. Slept with the TV on. Her toothbrush was still in the holder, her scent still on the pillow. She had this way of leaving that made you feel like you were already half gone before she said a word. But here's where the story turns. Because Evan, the man she threw everything away for, was married. And not just married, but deep in a double life. Wife, kids, a whole suburb away, a life he never intended to end. She didn't find out right away, of course. No, she spent 2 months floating on the high of freedom, posting curated brunch selfies and vague quotes about growth on Instagram. Meanwhile, I was staying quiet, calm, watching from a distance. And then one day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Evan's wife. Turns out, he hadn't been as careful as he thought. She'd hired a private investigator, the real kind, with cameras and reports and long hours in a sedan. And the wife? She had every intention of burning his life to the ground. She reached out to me because, she said, I figured you'd want to know what your wife threw you away for. She sent me the file, emails, hotel receipts, photos, even a voice recording from a restaurant where he was saying he had no intention of leaving his wife and needed to string her along until the heat died down. And when I say her, I mean my wife. Or ex-wife, I guess. I didn't show it to her right away. No, I waited. Let her have her fantasy. Let her decorate their little apartment and post Pinterest quotes about real love. And then one afternoon, when she texted to ask if we could meet to discuss the divorce settlement, I agreed. We met at a quiet coffee shop. She wore her hair curled, makeup done, that same red lipstick she used to wear when she wanted something. She smiled, maybe expecting me to flirt, to beg, to still be the man heartbroken over her betrayal. Instead, I slid the folder across the table. She didn't speak for a full minute, just flipped through the pages. Her hand began to tremble. I could see the exact second her world tilted. He's married? She asked, barely a whisper. I just nodded. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? I asked. She didn't answer. She left the cafe without finishing her drink. Didn't even look back. A week later, her post stopped. 2 weeks later, I got the official notice. She'd moved out of Evan's place and was back staying with her sister. 3 weeks after that, she called me crying, asking if we could talk. Said she made a mistake. That part's important. She didn't say she missed me. She didn't say she loved me. She just said she made a mistake. I told her I forgave her. But forgiveness doesn't mean return. It doesn't mean rebuilding something that was already cracked before the betrayal. I told her I hoped she found what she was looking for. She cried harder at that than anything else. I think she thought there would always be a door back. There isn't. Not when the silence has finally stopped hurting. Not when you've learned how to breathe on your own again. Not when you've rebuilt your peace one quiet evening at a time. She said she needed more excitement. Turns out, excitement has a cost. And sometimes, it shows up in the form of a married man with a polished smile and a trail of destruction behind him. I didn't have to do anything to get even. All I had to do was wait. The funny thing about betrayal is how quiet it gets afterward. The chaos ends, and what you're left with isn't fury, it's echo. The echo of a door closing. The clink of a spoon in an empty coffee cup. The silence of your phone when someone used to check in. I didn't rush to fill the space she left. I let it breathe. I spent evenings walking the neighborhood, relearning my own company, rebuilding my mornings. Coffee brewed just the way I like, no compromises. I even started writing again. Nothing fancy, just journal entries. Letters I'd never sent. Little truths I couldn't say out loud. One entry from that first month after it all broke. She left to chase a spark. But maybe sparks aren't meant to be lived in. Maybe they're just meant to remind us what burns. She called a few times. Once when I was grocery shopping. Once late at night, when she was probably feeling the full weight of the truth. Another time after she found out Evan's wife filed for divorce and included her name in the proceedings. Turns out private investigators don't just disappear after the job is done. She kept asking the same question. How are you so calm? And I told her the truth. Because I'd already lost her once. Because the worst had already happened and I had survived it. Because, I said, I stopped needing you to understand me. I only needed to understand myself. And that's when it shifted. She stopped calling, stopped texting, but I knew from mutual friends that things were unraveling. Evan left town, apparently, moved back in with his wife after negotiating some backroom agreement that saved his assets, but not his reputation. His name vanished from her company's website. His Instagram went private. She, on the other hand, had to face the aftermath with no lifeline. The apartment she moved into? She couldn't afford it alone. She lost her job 3 weeks after the scandal broke. Quietly, of course. HR said it was restructuring. Everyone knew the truth. You don't sleep with the boss and walk away clean. Not when the boss's wife has receipts. I saw her once. Months after everything. She was standing outside a bookstore downtown. Hair pulled back. Arms crossed like she was holding herself together. She looked thinner. Older somehow. She didn't see me. And I didn't go to her. Not out of pride. Just out of respect. For both of us. Some things aren't meant to be re-entered. Some doors don't lead home anymore. They lead back into fire. The divorce finalized without fanfare. She didn't fight for much. I think she was too embarrassed. Or maybe just too tired. She didn't even ask for the couch. A part of me wanted to reach out. To remind her we had good years too. That there were Sunday mornings filled with pancakes and laughter. That I once loved her so deeply it scared me. But I didn't. Because the man I was back then would have forgiven her just to stop hurting. The man I am now forgives her to keep growing. I moved. A little place out by the lake. Nothing grand. Just quiet. Peaceful. I picked it because it doesn't echo. You laugh in that house, and it stays. You speak, and it doesn't bounce back with ghosts. That matters more than people think. Sometimes I sit on the porch at night, watching the stars ripple on the water, and I think about how much of love is really about timing. How many marriages die not from a lack of love, but from a lack of clarity about who we are, what we want, and what we're running from. She ran from stillness, thinking it meant stagnation. I embraced it, and it gave me everything back. Last I heard, she moved back in with her mother. Started working retail again. A friend told me she's trying to find herself. I hope she does. I really do. Because even now, even after everything, I don't hate her. She broke something. Yes. But I've learned that sometimes the breaking is what lets the light in. I found parts of myself I never would have discovered if she had stayed. The resilience. The quiet strength. The ability to stand alone without shrinking. And that's the real ending. Not the revenge. Not her downfall. But the fact that I lived. Not just survived, but lived. She left me for a man who promised adventure. And in the end, it was me who discovered the real journey. The one back to myself. And now? Now I'm not waiting for the next spark. I've got a fire of my own.